I've got coughs going on. My laughs are going to be mainly cough-based tonight. That's where I'm at right now.
Cough jokes, dad jokes.
That's okay. The last coughing fit I was dealing with last night led to the eruption of my son's dinner and bedtime milk upon my person.
Oh, no.
So it's a special episode of Inside Check podcast where we have 3 dads talking to you from shallow graves.
Oh, no.
That we had to dig ourselves.
Right.
We gave you one job, kids. You couldn't even get it done.
When I was your age, we didn't have Fiverr to hire someone to come and dig a grave for us.
Uber graves, right?
When I was your age, I had to die 30 kilometers both ways uphill just to die.
Just die.
No, it's the new app, Gravr. Just put it on your phone. And if you feel like death, at a touch of a button, you'll have a shallow grave built for you in under 8 hours.
Exactly. All you need is that last look of death to authenticate, and
now,
boom.
Is it ordering a grave, or does it just show you where the nearest empty grave is in relation to, like, can it use your coordinates?
I don't know. This is the question. Are you a member of Gravr or Gravr Plus? This is the are you part of the subscription-based Gravr? Exactly.
Gravr Pro?
Gravr Pro. Gravr Pro Max, let's be honest.
And, just vanilla Gravr asks you every 5 seconds if you'd like to go pro and lists the benefits.
Yeah. Are you going to die? Would you like to go pro?
Are you enjoying the slow, decrepit failure of all your organ systems? Rate us on iTunes.
Before it's too late.
It's too late. Man, this is a tagline. Someone is going to make billions of dollars over our fake app, and we should probably start our podcast.
TM, copyright. Void where prohibited. There, it's saved.
Okay. I'm Leap. I use he, him.
I'm Air. I also use he, him.
And I'm Embers Tide. I use he, him.
And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeons of your bad decisions and retrieve the treasure of wisdom.
Speaking of bad decisions, that Gravr app, let me tell you, I have regrets.
I don't know, listeners, I don't know if Jay is going to give you the ramp up of the death-based app that we just discussed before the intro. But here's the TLDR. An app, I can't even do it. I hope that Jay just gives you our ramp up.
The whole thing
in the edits at the end. Otherwise, this isn't going to make any sense. Hi, how are you? How are you guys doing? It's been a bit. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a somewhat warm. It's starting to cool off.
Right. Those minute colors are changing on the right.
Yeah. But it's been okay. It's been good. There's been some dad related shenanigans I've had to deal with. Infant child's first exposure to vomit, which they generated. So that's been fun.
Yep.
But here I am, ready, willing,
mostly dried off.
Mostly.
Only slightly damp.
Minimally odorous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, have been enjoying the fatherly experience of a circulating cough structure. One of our children got ill. And we are now in the time-honored tradition of sharing it through our household at multiple angles. And so while we do not have vomit, it is a mucusy event here, I will say. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had that the week before where it's like, I don't feel good. Let me rub every dripping orifice on you till I feel better. Like,
feels like there's a goblin with a bandsaw in my esophagus.
Yeah.
And I don't even get not even 1% Tom Waits voice on this podcast, so I feel robbed. Such is life.
It wasn't even worth it, right? You didn't get that sweet payoff.
It was not worth it. Didn't get the Waits payoff.
So
waiting.
Listeners, you've got a bunch of dads who are just talking right now, eventually we will make our way down to the dungeon, descend upon our knees.
The dadgeon.
The dad.
Nope.
I don't know how I feel about that. That's a place somewhere, I'm sure, and I don't know how I feel about it.
That charges admission, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. You
or
also
maybe it's like the dungeon. Maybe it's like the dungeon know to clean up your room before bed.
Oh yes, that's a much cleaner version of the dadgeon that I was imagining. Let's go with that.
Dungeon know.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, nice one. Nice. Good. So we are going to do a dungeon crawl, where we talk about what is new in Dungeons and Dragons or new in Dungeons and Dragons in our lives. And I first turn to my esteemed colleagues, none of whom are raccoons. What did you experience in D&D most recently?
Well, I'll start. So when I was not being a raccoon and digging through a pile of trash, I opened up my Twitter app. I closed Gravr for a couple of minutes and opened up Twitter, and I saw that there is this continued beatification of D&D in the entertainment sports industry.
God, yes.
To the point where now to say you don't play Dungeons and Dragons is like a heel play. That in the parlance of the field, if you're a heel, you're like a bad guy wrestler.
Oh my goodness!
So there's this wrestler who comes and he posts and he's all wearing his Gold's Gym, buffed out, and in a locker room with some nice faux wood accents in the back. He's like, I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. And the beauty of that is he's setting up a grudge match with another wrestler, but that's not it. The true beauty is all of these people come out of the woodwork, myself included, like, hey, I played Dungeons and Dragons. And we're all like wearing tight shirts and all that fun muscly stuff. But also it's a chance for people to be like, hey, you probably just had a bad first experience. Come onto my table, we'll have a game, it'll be great.
I liked because there were so many levels to it. There were people who were offended, and some people rightly so. Some people realized it was a put on. Were like, but this is just still the bullying that I faced.
Right.
But there are other folks who completely fed into the kayfabe vibe and were like, I'm going to work with this. No less than Matthew Mercer was like, maybe you had a bad first experience. Maybe your opponent can run you a game after he picks you up off the mat.
Beautiful response I saw of all of them.
Beautiful.
Many good ones, but that black belt judo shit at the end, it was beautiful.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was just top tier Matthew Mercer words. Sweet, but also at the end he just shivs you with the feels knife. I was like, I can't wait till you guys have the match, you lose, and then your Instagram is all just the two of you rolling d20s, and now you're a tag team called the Tavern Brawlers.
Brawlers.
That's gonna happen.
That's the turn, right? The heel turn. You gotta have that.
The heel
brothers.
turn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Everything just came to everything just coalesced in my brain. Right.
And you know how they could do it? They could join up against a villain who's trying to tie role playing to demonology and Satanism and the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
We're the satanic panic.
Yeah, it'd be like Bill and Ted too.
Yes. Oh my God.
Bill and Ted
So
go to hell.
We've already had a successful podcast. We've invented a app where that has a subscription service. We've invented a whole plot line of wrestling Dungeons and Dragons. And
successful wrestling franchise.
Yeah, exactly. And we are
wrap this shit up.
Yeah, we're not even 10 minutes in. This has been the best podcast. This has been Inside Check.
Welcome, Jay.
Thank you to Amy T. Falcone. No, we'll keep going. That's dope, and I'm sad I missed it. I needed a new phone. My phone needed to get repaired. And then I just never reinstalled, like I never relogged into Twitter, and I just haven't yet. So it's been entirely on, not out of like discontent or even like
just didn't get around to it.
Yeah, not even like an ennui of like social media. It was just like so busy here starting up as a teacher at the beginning of September that my social media presence has really just kind of fallen to the wayside. So it is nice to see that the good battles are continuing to be fought on the front lines of the part of Twitter that I want to be a part of. That's the only way I can put that, I guess. Air, what have you done in Dungeons and Dragons?
What have I done? I have read an excellent article by Dungeon Commander, DC, who is a previous guest of the show.
Premium experience.
Just excellent, always thoughtful. They always write like the most thought-provoking stuff on their Twitter feed, and they've also picked up a gig writing for D&D Beyond, and so they put together an article called "The True Master of Dungeons," and they're just talking about DMing culture going back to like the original first edition of D&D, and like the Gygaxian kind of notion of how it was a adversarial
speed run, basically
one-sided. It was very much like a one-sided thing. Like it in the Dungeon Master's Guide, it speaks to if your players should deign to look upon these sacred pages, smite them down with most holy vengeance. Like it started off adversarial, and really what DC has done is they've put together just coalesced everything I had always wanted to kind of say about the Dungeon Master player relationship far more eloquently than I ever could.
Oh, totally.
Just talking about like, yes, you have final say, but that is not a privilege. That is a responsibility as the DM.
Right.
If it is not a conversation between you and the players about, trying to arbitrate how things are going narratively or mechanically or what have you, if it's immediately my way or the highway, you're going to lose them because they need to invest in your world by having a hand in creating it as much as you do.
Totally.
Great article was posted. Oh, geez, now I'm going to have to do math by the time this gets posted.
6 months ago.
Before you were born.
Just clicking the back button.
Back when I was your age, DC was posting articles on D&D Beyond.
Yes, The True Master of Dungeons on D&D Beyond. Check it out. A very well-written piece.
Amazing. So good. This is the closest thing to a dungeon crawl that I have, but it ties into that. We're about to start like the Dungeons and Dragons Club at my school, which is I'm so excited about because it's like the setup is so different than the one that I was running on my own. There are students who want to DM, which is really, really cool. And I am experiencing the process of like, I'm trying to be, I want to talk about this without talking about the specifics because these are kids and, they're
yes.
right. Mm-hmm. But the process of learning DMing and also that process of the us versus them mentality. Right. And like, we talk a lot about of nuance in the game. So like, that's where my mind is at. And that's where the other co-teacher is at. But like, also these kids are kids, right? So it's like, how much do you want to tweak the experience that they are offering so that that the players will have as positive a time as possible because they are also kids, but like how also do you just like let them be kids and figure some stuff out, right? It's cool.
Yeah. Because you both have this unique kind of social contract lesson, the concept of like a fantasy realm and becoming another character and acting through the eyes and the life of this other imaginary individual, and then you have the real world social and peer dynamics. There's a lot going on.
100%, right? And I had a moment where I was thinking about some things that this person said from my 34-year-old brain. And then I had to stop and been like, no, like, how would I have thought about this from my 15-year-old brain, right? Or my 13-year-old brain. And so...
Oh God, what a horrible concept.
Right? Yeah. And it's just it's very, very interesting. And I don't have a good answer yet. And so this has been a really cool experience. Also, the person who ran it last year, so my co-leader, all my stuff has been digital, and I've run very light, just had my dice, and then we've all done theater of the mind. And when him and I got together, he's like, here are my books. And then and he opened up his giant bag and he pulled everything out, and I nearly squealed with glee. So the resources here are robust in nature, and I'm quite pleased.
Nice. Hey, that's a heck of a dungeon crawl.
Thank you.
That's good. That's awesome.
That's that good crawl.
That's that good crawl action right there.
So everyone, put your phones down, stop checking out the latest spots on Gravr, and we have...
A new plot opened up just 2 blocks from my house.
Do you want to get it now? $5.
Yeah, right. There's never been more convenient.
Yeah. I really hope Jay keeps that bit. Otherwise, none of this is going to make sense. Maybe if we mention it enough, it'll be harder for him to edit all of these parts out.
Yes. The classic poison pill strategy we've utilized against Jay on so many occasions.
And he said that he wouldn't be here for this one. He chose not to be here. So
the thing is, I think he might just call our bluff when we say, if you don't keep this bit in from the start when we began recording, none of it's going to make sense. And he might just say that was going to happen regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
Is and that would be different from every other episode.
Well, listener, I hope there's some kind of continuity, or you've known us long enough that you're just kind of used to this. And
That's right, true believers. We're this way all the time.
Yeah. So we are here to talk about 2 things. We are here to talk about the long-standing tradition of puzzles in Dungeons & Dragons, and we have been presented with the brand new Unearthed Arcana. Which one shall we access first, my friends?
Come on, ride the train, UA ride it.
Oh my God.
Getting back to the Unearthed Arcana, which we had talked about 2 episodes back now. More has been released. They are just coming fast and furious with this quality content. They have a new subclass for both the Bard and the Paladin, which has recently gone up. The College of Eloquence for the Bard, and the Oath of Heroism for the Paladin. So does any of do either of these
let's talk
your
about
fervor?
Let's talk about the Bard first.
What? Okay, we're gonna leave with the. Okay, fine. We'll do the easy one afterwards. Let's do the Bard. I thought we were gonna swing for the simple one. Okay, Bardic. So College of Eloquence. This basically sounds like you in a UA, right?
It's the fancy talk Bard. Yeah, you're going to become an orator. The guys that fought against Socrates, Solipsis? No, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Sophist.
That's okay. I never knew. So you're
so you're one up on both of us, man. Let's talk.
Hey, the big word thing you're trying to describe, you're currently doing.
And let's talk about your level 3 thing. Okay, actually, I'm going to just read the little flavor bit to our friends. We won't read the whole thing because that would take forever. And you can find it on UA if any of this sounds interesting. But College of Eloquence. Adherents of the College of Eloquence master the art of... Adherents of the College of Eloquence masters the art of oratory, persuasion.
The art of oratory.
Yes, of course. Persuasion is regarded as a high art, and a well-reasoned, well-spoken argument often proves more powerful than objective truth. These bards wield a blend of logic and theatrical wordplay, winning over skeptics and detractors with logical arguments and plucking
podcast is so much better with you talking like this.
to the appeal to the emotions of an entire audiences.
Yeah.
I just feel like that was the voiceover for a cutscene from a leading AAA MMO.
Yeah.
The Tauren are a proud and noble race. Good leap. That needs to be your next PC, please and thank you.
Done. Done. I will definitely do that. My friend and I used to watch planet Earth a lot. And like when it first came out.
Oh, Attenborough.
Yeah. And so we would, and everything, like for so many episodes, you would say like, and you can clearly see it from space. And like we would just mention that over and over again. I love.
But he has the same gravitas in his language. So he'd be like, the wet season of the desert is so grand. You can see it from space. And then 2 episodes later, he'd be like, the female frog is mounted by not just one mate, but 7.
So many that you can see them from space.
And really, what kind of weird interstellar voyeur are you?
Listen, Moon, stop watching our frogs do it. All right?
That's why people tune into National Geographic Channel. But
everyone knows the Moon is a pervert.
One of the things I liked a lot about the College of Eloquence is the 3rd level feature of universal speech. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a Johnny like me, so the gaming archetype where you just want to make cool things happen, the ability to essentially magically speak the same language as anybody or anything
even things that don't speak a language.
Yeah, that's
regardless
true,
of the language you speak, you have the advantage. For 10 minutes, the chosen creatures, so it must be a creature, can just magically understand you.
That's dope.
Because there's a lot of bard spells. There's a lot of spells that require like a shared language to work. So now this just completely negates that requirement. Every spell you got works because you can talk to a rock and it knows what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, that's one of those things that like you have a DM that gives you a little leeway and be like, and then you're like, hey, see that rock over there? Him and I are friends. In a minute, he won't be, right? Like, he's just doing that thumbs kind of stuff.
The rock sits there unmoving, but you feel a certain sense of camaraderie. At 6th level, you get undeniable logic, which, generally speaking, does a thing that they've been somewhat hesitant to do, which is allows you to force disadvantage on a saving throw, or grant advantage on a saving throw. You can do either or. So either heal and grant advantage, or do a little damage and grant disadvantage, which is pretty big. Mm-hmm. Infectious inspiration. So the last ability in this tree. Oh, I forgot. You also get soothing words, where you can cast calm emotions lots of times.
There you go.
Which they should really rename to sweet emotions now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I didn't understand. I think. Oh, we'll get there in a second. Sorry, it's the paladin one.
Yeah.
But infectious inspiration. If a creature uses the bardic inspiration dice you give them and they don't succeed, they don't lose it. They get to keep it.
Whoa.
And if they succeed, you can use your reaction on a creature within 60 feet of you to be like, did you see how awesome I made him?
Yeah.
Now you're awesome. And you give a free bardic inspiration die to that person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it essentially doubles your bardic inspiration dice pool, which is pretty crazy.
I love the implicit flavor of that. Where you're like, dude, did you see that shit? That was me. And someone else is like, oh, that part's for real. And then they're magically buffed.
I wish that I want someone to do College of Eloquence bard, but literally like Bill and Ted. So it's just like, whoa, dude, whoa, and someone's like, whoa, and then that's their inspiration, right? Like, that's what I want.
You could definitely do a Bill and Ted kind of hype up. You could also. This struck me as very rap battle-esque, like.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to drop a verse and it is going to buff your colleagues.
Mom spaghetti. Yeah.
Yeah. This reminded me a lot of the way Sam Riegel played his character in the first arc of Critical Role.
Scanlan.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I do want to say, Jay and I were talking about this earlier when we came out, and he's like, oh, good. You view yourself as someone who's able to make high art out of well-reasoned, well-spoken arguments that are more powerful than objective truth. we've created the College of Mansplaining.
Well, actually,
hot take.
That's
yeah. Oh God, that's what they should name one of the abilities. Undeniable logic should be renamed Well, actually.
Well, actually, oh my God, that would be the worst. And as long as it was played ironically, potentially the best. Right?
Yes. It at least provides a chance to recover the dumpster fire that is mansplaining for some comedic effect.
Yeah. We're taking it away from you. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. Reappropriate it.
Exactly.
It's like your whole thing. It's a joke now, and we play it in our Dungeons and Dragons. Just so you know.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. I would like this. So for some reason, I was just thinking about like, this is like a high thinking bard, right? Like, and so for some reason, it immediately tied me to those two rogue archetypes that are also like the strategist kind of people. And I think it would be like really interesting to have a party dynamic where you have like this guy and then just like all the like highfalutin thinkers kind of a party, right? Like there's the rogues that are like the Sherlock Holmes and the Moriarty classes, basically. And I just think it would be funny to have a bunch of like big brains going on an adventure together, trying to like one up each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, the entire combat becomes like debate
right.
club. Yeah. Excuse me, he's gone over time. He used both his action and bonus action.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. We got to talk about this paladin because
you could argue that the paladin is not paladin enough for this modern day and age, and that we need some sort of super distilled, hyper condensed cast
140 proof.
Paladin juice.
You take all those paladins, you squeeze them together real tight, and you let that water evaporate off, and you take that like that substance, that hard ichor at the bottom. And
they took a paladin and they threw a paladin into the Large Hadron Collider and blasted it against another paladin at near the speed of light. And the explosion produced the sacred
Captain America. Oh wait, no.
Close. I would say he would be this paladin. We are talking about the Oath of Heroism, which is basically the paladin of paladining.
This is like the chronic paladin.
3 paladins in a trench coat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you have too many of these paladins in your party, you might go blind and need to seek medical attention.
Yeah, talk to your doctor if there's been 4 hours of Oath of Heroism happening.
Yeah. If you experience a mighty deed for more than 4 hours.
Oh no, I'm going to remember that forever.
Yeah.
I'm so
who
sorry.
wants to take all the fun stuff that this right. good boy gets?
I'll give you some
them.
flavor. I'll give you some flavor for this for when you like some paladin in your paladin.
Mm-hmm.
The Oath of Heroism is an affirmation of a destined path, one laid out for you by divine hands. For whatever reason, or god or group of gods has included you in their machinations. You are not a reluctant hero, but one who fully embraces the idea that great deeds are yours to achieve. You train diligently, sculpting your body and refining your skills. Oh, sorry, Neil. Hot here.
It's okay. It's fine. We're clamped over here. It's good.
Hey, sit down. This is why they say don't take Oath of Heroism if you're on heart medication.
There you go.
Refining your skills so you're ready when destiny calls.
Oh my God.
I mean, paladins are already insufferable. This is like max insufferability.
This is that guy.
Excuse me, if you wouldn't mind, you're somewhat in the way of my destiny. If you could just scoot. Thanks, buddy. Here we go.
It's like when your paladin in your party, who is already like that guy, is you go back to his home and then the DM brings up, and here's their older brother, and you're like, oh, I hate that guy. And
if I may, I think this is probably the biggest undercut Wizards has ever done, because after all of that flavor text, the first spell they get is Expeditious Retreat.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's talk about this actually. So the first so action over words, challenges are but tests, embrace destiny, and hone the body. So it looks like these are just like things, like this is like character flavor that you could like pick, and then I guess these could be the things that you could like forward your movement on or decide like that kind of like that extra flavor to fill that character out. And they get oath spells. So they get, like Air said, you get at third, you can get Expeditious Retreat or Guiding Bolt. At fifth, Enhance Ability and Enthrall, Haste and Protection from Energy, Compulsion, Freedom of Movement, that's at level 13, and Commune and Conjure Volley. Like, that's a decent list, I guess. Like,
I would say that, like, every level has one spell that's, fairly useful and one that's kind of like niche, which is pretty standard for these spell lists.
And this looks like the list, like, just reading this list, this looks like almost like a buffing of yourself or others, right? Like a lot of these are like, oh, I must get you out quickly, like with the Expeditious Retreat, or like enhance your ability or enhance that other person's ability. So you could really have a paladin who is very like self-guided and using these to boost themselves up, or their heroism might come from the aiding of others, because all of these things you could pass along.
I like when you declare this, you get these, you can choose from 2 channel divinity features, which are sort of about buffing you to kind of achieve a little bit of a superhuman edge. So you can be a peerless athlete and give yourself advantage on strength athletics or acrobatics, or you can basically crit on a 19 or 20 attack roll. So like these little, it's kind of like when you get to the big roll or there's a big moment, then your gods sort of bless you a little bit, which I think is kind of cool flavor.
Yeah, that 19 to 20 is like a big deal, right? Like that can make a huge difference, especially when you think of, some people for when it's like a numbers game, but if you think about like all of the extra damage that a paladin can put down on something that can...
On a crit.
Exactly, right? Like this could be... Like, if you are hoping for, like, that, like, you mentioned Captain America, but that, like, Avengers level moment of, like, the single hit that destroys the thing for good, right? The legendary strike with all of your smites on it and, like, all of that extra juice that a paladin can put on could be that, like, devastating... Like, we've all had that moment at a table where someone just, like, levels something out. Like, that could be that moment,
Absolutely. I will say that both this feature and the next one, and I think it's kind of speaks to both of these, but maybe more so the Paladin. Like the last few UAs they've put out have been really out of left field. Like I was kind of happy because they were starting to get a little weird. They had like the wild magic barbarian, and they had a warlock that could turn into goo, and like as Jay put it, soft bones. Like it was very it was some weird stuff. And this seems like, you got a talky bard and you got a heroic paladin. I was like, that's kind of what they do anyway. But even more so, like mechanically, both of these features are just part of the champion archetype for the fighter.
Yes,
that's true.
And Mighty Deed, the next one, which is when you score a crit, which you're likely to do more so because of the 19 to 20 crit range you get above, or you reduce a creature to 0 hit points. You can do either giving folks around you temporary hit points, or scaring, a wisdom saving throw, or frightening all the baddies around you, both of which are maneuvers from the Battlemaster archetype for the fighter. So I'm kind of like, it feels like you're just kind of there's a couple of these classes, subclasses throughout the game where it feels like they're kind of like, well, this works pretty well and is you know, a pretty tried and true thing. So we're just going to kind of shove it into this class. And it's like, it's not even, you know, wild magic on a barbarian. That's kind of goofy. You know, fighter and paladin, they kind of already were that to begin with. So it's not bad.
No. And maybe so.
But you're like, look, they buried this arcana and then they unearthed it. Why was it buried in the first place? Because it was so crazy. And this doesn't feel quite so crazy.
No, I feel like, I mean, we've talked behind the scenes about like, you know, they've done so much within this, within 5e already that, like, I don't know if they're trying to, like, reuse, you know, like, if you've played Destiny, right? Like, sometimes it feels a little bit like a skin, like you're getting the abilities of other classes, but you're just your character, right? Like, you're not, it doesn't all start feeling the same, but you can tell that they're rehashing bits. And I wonder if it's because, like, well, now you don't have to, like, you like that feature, but you don't have to multi-class, right? Or maybe they've been, I don't know, right? Like, there could be a bunch of different reasons as to why. I think it fits. Like, I think it fits within the theme.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I take your point that, like, this is something that has been done, right? Like, this isn't new.
I would have loved to see these sorts of ideas fleshed out in new ways mechanically.
Yeah.
You know, like, because the ideas are somewhat new. You know, an orator bard is I think there's a case to be made that could just be a lore bard, or really any bard is probably got a mouth on them and talks a lot, at least stereotypically. I would have liked to see these kind of things maybe borne out with newer mechanics, because then there's if there's not going to be, you know, meat on the bone flavor wise with kind of the story and the narrative of what this subclass is giving you, how it defines you as this class, then let there be something interesting mechanically to play around with. And this feels like I could just get this elsewhere.
Totally.
So I'm not feeling, you know, like a lot of like, ooh, about these as yet, as much as the last 4, I should say.
No, totally. You got to tell me, like, do you think that they're trying to give, like, are they intentionally trying to give alternatives to every single playable class, right? Like, do you think that they kind of like hit a corner a bit?
I think it's because multi-classing is an optional rule. They're trying to find ways to, because there's a lot of classes that do this, where there's a lot of subclasses where it's like we're borrowing flavor and or mechanics or both from another class to kind of get it in there, just in case you aren't, you know, playing in a game where multi-classing is allowed or whatnot. At least you have options in the subclasses in and of themselves. So that's fine. I mean, it's certainly good. Like we can go on, like the 15th level one is essentially another battle master thing. You can, if you know, you can use your reaction to gain your charisma modifier to your AC, and if the attack misses, you can make a reactionary attack, which is 2 battle master features that are kind of combined together there. And the last one,
level 20. Give me that.
Yeah.
This
is the one where I was like, they're missing the name because it's called Living Myth. And I was like, why wouldn't you go with Living Legend?
Maybe it's trademarked somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe. But this is the same as most Paladin 20th level things, where it's like it's your big buff that you get. It's your capstone defining thing. So for 10 minutes, you are blessed with otherworldly comeliness. There's that word again.
Why? Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Advantage on all charisma checks. You can turn a miss into a hit, and you can use your reaction to just succeed on a saving throw you failed. So you kind of get like a legendary save, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Once per long rest. Pretty typical, like 20th level paladin superpowers.
Now, once again, I'm thinking of ridiculous character people together. I want the hero paladin and the glamour bard to be friends.
Yeah.
Right? They should be friends. And they
You got your swole boy and you got your shonen bard boy that are both kind of like, just love us.
Yeah.
We're so beautiful. Yes, they are both described as having otherworldly comeliness.
Exactly, right? But then I feel like that party, you have like the 3 really high thinking people, and then those two chunky handsome boys, right? Just off doing their own thing. I would watch that show. I would watch that show all day, right?
This summer on the CW, this fall on the CW.
It won't last through the fall. Like it's on. Let's be honest.
Sweeps is going to crush it.
So,
I think you know that.
Exactly.
There's been a good frequency and a good clip of these Unearthed Arcanas. This is definitely flavor heavy. It's an interesting expansion, and if either of these super orator bards or buff belly,
swole it in,
right. Swole it in.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah.
Tickle your fancy. Check it out. It's out as playtest.
Mm-hmm. Very likely it'll be on D&D Beyond very soon. They've added the other 4 UAs toot sweet after
Pretty
they
quick.
were released. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll be able to get your UA on very soon.
And they can fix that typo in undeniable logic.
Yeah.
Bow, bow.
Oh, right. And then the alternate topic for the day was we were going to talk a little bit about the coolest puzzles you've encountered. This was suggested by our dear friend Jarika, and there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is this. Our DMJ, in our weekly campaign that Jarika and I and several other friends are playing in, gave us a puzzle like sessions ago. And I think it was kind of stewing in the back of a few people's minds. A few people, I think mostly being Jarika, because it was a library puzzle. It was about, I think, the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh.
I'm guessing. I don't know how library work. But it was a series of like books that we had picked up that had like Dewey Decimal codes. And so Jay sent us all the codes, and Jarika figured out like how they referenced certain letters. And then the letters were scrambled, and we had to just descramble them to figure out what the clue was. And honestly, I think we were just a dog with a bone on it, but it was a team effort. Like Jarika figured out the letters, then our friend Byrne, they figured out one of the words, and I figured out the other 2, and we kind of got it all at once. But I swear to God, we spent 45 minutes on it. Jay was trying to just like push the story forward, and we were like, yeah, but this puzzle though.
Right.
That's so good.
Yeah. And so I think the question was in regards to like what sort of puzzles have you given? Have you had to make your way through? Were they super convoluted? Did you find them way too easy? I turn to you, gentlemen. What have your experiences been with either running or answering puzzles in a D&D session?
My challenge with puzzles, I haven't run too many puzzles in D&D, and it's probably because of my experience with them. Like a lot of the puzzles that I have experienced they end up being like riddles, right? Like that is kind of that thing. And some of them are really good. And then it's like, my experience has either been that someone's heard it before, and so the good thing for them to do is they like step back, and then everyone has to try and figure it out. Or like for my long-standing party, we just had one guy who was really good at riddles. So we're like, all right, man, you're up. It's your riddle time, right? And so for me, as someone who doesn't do logic puzzle riddles very well, it wasn't something that I accessed very easily. And so it always seemed like someone else's game in Dungeons and Dragons. But it seems like when a puzzle hits, like what you were experiencing, then it is a group problem-solving activity. And if it's a group problem-solving activity and everyone's into it, like I am 100% game. I just think that's kind of like, it's you need to be pretty thoughtful in how you set that up, I think, you know?
I think there's like a McLuhan. I talked to Jay about it afterwards, and I think he felt like he's like there was just so much silence. I'm like, yeah, well, we were all working on ideas and just throwing them up in the chat to try to get it. And I think the thing is like, I think it's a medium is the message sort of thing. Had we been together in a room, Jay could have sat back and watched us all like puzzling, but because we were doing this online, it was just dead air, and he was worried that the session is dragging to a halt. It was grinding to a halt.
Yeah.
Because I was like, but no, that's investment from your players. Like, we are super involved in getting this right, and we're working together to do it. This is what a puzzle is for. You just need to, go get a Fresca.
Yeah, exactly.
Do our thing.
He just set the stage right, but it is a weird experience, right? Like, I'm sure, I can totally see that from a DM's chair. You're just not hearing anything, and you can't hear or see the processing of people when you're doing it online.
I always try and tell him, no, that was great. And I always have the problem where, I do the limerick riddle sort of puzzles often.
Yeah.
And I always think, oh, this one's going to get him. This one's going to get him. And so I ran a Chaltian one shot, which was like Indiana Jones themed, which was about them like going into a ancient Grun tomb. And I was like, I got it here. You want a noodle buster, gentlemen?
Bust my noodle. Let's hear it.
Orange, red, purple, gold, power over each they hold. Greens and blues by purple led, with purple in turn serving red. Greens and blues the lowest run, and gilded ones the greatest run. Now answer true, or still your nerve. Whom do orange lead and serve? So I gave this to 3 groups now, including my group of friends that I first started playing with, a bunch of IRL friends. And I went to get a beer, and I came back and they had solved it. I was like, well, fuck.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. That's too bad.
I don't know. And the other 2 groups that I ran this for online also just crushed it within like a minute. And I was like, aw. I actually made it more difficult by like adding in a little bit of a flub at the end. And it's still... So clearly I need to find a way to softball. I need to make better poems. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing, right? It's my thing with riddles is that since they're so tied to like a person's particular thought pattern, that my worry is that what makes sense for me, it might just not hit for somebody else. Like, not even that they don't like understand, like they just might be not able to access it, right? And then it just becomes like a wall for that person. Or it's the opposite of being like, I have found a thing that will give people an interesting challenge to solve, right? And then someone can like literally take my idea, turn it diagonally, and be like, oh, it's this. And then the time allotment isn't, I don't know, like you just get there, right? Like it's done before it was meant to be. But Embers, what are your thoughts?
Which can throw you off as as someone who planned to pace a certain sequence or area. It can lead to confusion on both sides of the DM screen.
Totally, but there is like this time-honored tradition, or like that riddles and puzzles have been a part of dungeons for a long time, right?
Oh,
and
totally.
I know that Dungeons and Dragons like encounters, like the ones that you can buy, they have teams that are dedicated to creating interesting puzzle events, like rooms that are basically giant puzzles, right? So I guess like if you're looking for something, there's stuff there. But I know that as a DM, it's a challenge for me to work on that same kind of level,
Yeah. A lot of the ones that I've developed for games have revolved around situational moments. So like you need to, the goal that you need to achieve is to either convince an NPC or persuade them to do something, or you need to find a way to get your whole party into a location where you're not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there are fewer constraints. It's much more open world, but you do have to think of a series of cause and effect relationships to get from point A to point B. And the way I would set it up is it's kind of like they do it in Critical Role. Like they'll sit and they'll stage and they'll plan. And they'll be like, all right, we're going to do this and then that and this and then that. And they'll come up with their 6-step sequence, because once they start it, as I run them through the scenario they want to execute, I start throwing them curveballs based on the structure of the puzzle I'm not going to tell them what will happen. They just react to it.
Totally.
If it's like Critical Role, it means they do step 1 and then step 2 through 6 are relegated to history as they never occur.
Everything catches on fire.
This is, the Travis Willingham school of it doesn't matter, let's just go. Right. Nothing we plan will come to pass. But speaking of sources for good riddles and puzzles, I came upon a good thread in our D&D. Just what's the coolest puzzle you've encountered? We'll make sure to post this up on our Twitter account. Mm-hmm. But it's got a lot of classics in here, a lot of ones that I've come upon before and used. This one, the Gentleman's Door. It's a door frame with a reflection in the middle of it that's blocking the way. It's a reflection of the person trying to pass through. They can clearly see what's behind the door, but no matter what they do, the reflection mimics their actions and gets in their way. To get past the door, they have to say, "After you," or some other reasonably polite thing, and the reflection will say, no, please, I insist," and will step aside for them and motion them to enter. And then once they do, the reflection vanishes. So the original poster, Grim Squid, called it the Gentleman's Door. And then the follow-up from First Time DMing was, I'd call it the Canadian's Door.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good one. The Sentient Door, where you have to trick it into saying its own name or some keyword. So the puzzle isn't figuring out the keyword. The puzzle is, figuring out an inventive way to get the door to say it. The old mirror room puzzle, where there's certain objects in the mirror that aren't in the room. You have to go back to the dungeon to get them and put them where they are in the reflection. Mm-hmm. My favorite one was this, an Androsphinx that guards the entrance to a tomb. But instead of having a riddle that the players have to solve, it's bored and likes riddles, and they have to tell it a riddle interesting enough that it can't solve it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So it kind of puts the onus on the DM, and the riddles aren't going to be maybe too tough because the players have to make them up on the spot. So if you can tell it a riddle it can't solve, it'll let you go. Or they suggested here, it will always insist on its answer being correct. Because of its pride, and eventually the players have to give it a riddle so easy that the Androsphinx actually gets it right, and then they can approve of its answer. And once its ego has been mollified, they can go through.
Nice.
So I thought there's a lot of really good ones in here. Some I've seen before, some that are new to me, but definitely a lot of fun ones. So we'll make sure to link that.
Amazing.
That is clever. I really do like that.
Yeah.
But you notice there are a lot of, because it's Dungeons and Dragons, oftentimes you've got doors with mirrors, traps, flame gouts that you have to figure out how to shut off, idols that are booby trapped that you need to remove, the sort of the classic archetypal things. There are always little twists that you could put on them, though. But if when in doubt, if you see a mirror in a dungeon, your spidey sense should be tingling.
Yeah,
seriously.
The wizard wasn't just super vain. It's there to fuck with you, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say that some of my favorites are the open-ended ones. Like, I like the Sentient Door, except it's not even a puzzle. So, like, there is no preset answer. It's just convincing the door to let you pass, making an argument to it, and a successful like charisma check of some sort. Mm-hmm. Or like one of my favorites is the no-win scenario. So you have like, acid pouring in from the sides of the room and a bunch of switches in the middle of the room that do nothing. and two columns that, would serve as, safety, and 3 people in the party. Mm-hmm. And just see what they do. Like,
I like those kind of riddles, right? Like I like the things that it's like you're just trying to test their creativity to see what they can create in the moment using the stuff that they have together or their spells or
even just a no-win and just see the inter-party conflict unfold before you. Like, one of you is melting. Now the acid is probably illusory or something like that. Yeah. But just who's the odd person out? Anywho,
my fine non-raccoon gentleman, I think we have created a podcast.
I would be willing to agree with that assessment. Yes,
it would appear, which is great because my Gravr is going to arrive in like 15 minutes, so I have to get prepared. I have to perform the rites and
begin to embalm. Right?
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't do that unless you're subscribed at the Pro Max tier level. You gotta embalm yourself, man.
Well,
right?
See, the new feature they're rolling out is you can actually they partnered with Uber, so you can get an embalming group, an Uber ride over to your location. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, venture capitalists, don't do this. Don't.
Oh, you know they're totally going to do it.
Of course they are. Any idea where it's like, well, I think there's going to be some money in it. None of them sound that way.
I promise you that there's some VC or angel group who's going to hear a pitch about how millennials need this solution.
Millennials are dying in record numbers.
for their age.
They're killing the economy. They're killing avocado toast, and now they're dying. Anyways.
Millennials don't know how to go to a mortician.
Yeah.
Millennials don't know how to die even.
We're revolutionizing the process. Anyways, this got dark. Thank you for listening to our ridiculous podcast. Even you venture capitalists. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you listen to it on a place that can give reviews, we would love to hear or see a review. And if you can give star ratings, we would really appreciate a positive rating, as it helps other people find this thing that we have created that I guess people want to find, maybe. Thank you so much to Amy T. Falcone for our social branding and our chibi faces. And also thank you to Vin Swept for our intro and outro music, Never Stand Alone. If you love music and you love this, you should check them out because they do a lot of great music and you just need to give them credit if you want to use it. Answering your cues with our collective A's. This
was Insight
Check. Sorry. We would like to thank Amy T. Falcone for our social. You know what? I'm going to stop.
Were you about to call her Amy T. Calzone?
No, I was going to say Amy Fee Talcone, and that isn't right either.
Go for a calzone, though.
Man,
right?
I could crush a calzone right now.
Oh, with my bare hands.
Just like a paladin. Just juice it right into my hero. Right into my hero mouth.
In my hero mouth. Oh.